And welcome back to another edition of the Business Boost Academy podcast. I'm here today with Auffray. Did I do that all right? Was that okay? That's not too bad. So, as you can probably tell, Aurelie's French and my pronunciation isn't particularly good. But anyway, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
Good. I'm good. Very good. Not so bright and sunny day today in the south of France, but
Uh,
we'll make an exception for today.
yeah, I'm sure people watching this will be very jealous about the fact you're in the south of France and everything else. So, really, just give us a bit of background about yourself. How did you end up doing what you're doing now?
It was all an accident.
Okay.
I was I worked for big corporations. Well, I studied languages, but studied translation, which I didn't like. So I left France and then went to live in Guernsey and then I met my boyfriend. We moved to Scotland and just started working and using my languages and I went through different big names, HP, BlackBerry. Um, and then I started working for my husband's business,
Hmm.
sorting out all the back office. Little did I know that I was learning how to be a VA. Um, and yeah, fast forward a few years, got divorced and needed to earn money. So, well, what do you do? Start working as a VA. It was a no-brainer, and I actually found clients before I started looking. So it
Yeah.
actually came to me. And yeah, fast forward another few years, I decided I wanted to offer more to my clients and train as well to be able to offer more. So I trained as an OBM in
Uh-huh.
the US. That was last year, August 24, I certified. And
Uh-huh.
since then I've done the switch and work as an OBM.
So an OBM is an online business manager.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's the difference between a VA and an OBM?
Right. So it's the level at which they work in the business. I've drawn a little sketch here. If you have a VA coming in and the VA
Yeah.
is going to start looking at your business, so it's going to start working on one software. So that's one line. And
Yeah.
it's going to start sorting out your inbox and it's going to go so on and on and on.
Uh-huh.
But the little bits are going to be sorted, but there come a day where your business is still growing, but you'll need to have someone coming in and having a look at everything from
Uh-huh.
the top down the bottom to see how the little silos are working together, communicating, and possibly needing to get automated
Right.
or, you know, assembled in a way that everything is smoother. So that's one thing, and it's also right hand woman or right hand man. Slightly biased when I say slightly right hand
Yeah, it's fine.
woman.
We're not woke
Um,
here. Don't worry about it. It's okay.
and an OBM is also called in some cases a fractional COO, and
Yeah.
that speaks much more to people because everybody knows what a COO does.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
I must admit, if you put it, when you say fractional COO, instantly you go, right, okay, I know exactly what
exactly.
you're talking about. And it's OBM is like an expression I've heard over, probably came across it maybe 12, 15 months ago, something like that. And it wasn't something that I knew what it was. And it was just something, oh, what is that? What's the difference between that and a VA? And it's
Yeah.
interesting it's interesting to know that.
Some OBMs are much more marketing orientated and they'll do a lot of launches, but they'll still make sure everything is moving according to plan
Mhm.
and make sure everything is assembled and working fine. So it really is a question of you have more operational, like I am, more marketing. Some of specifically launch OBMs, like they really do a lot of launch for coaches, for example, that have trainings and starting every month or so on. So there are several specialities. Um,
Mm.
but it's around system processes and marketing.
Right. Okay. So it's much, would you say it's more strategic
Yeah.
than actually doing, you're not so much in the weeds, you're more overlooking from your
Yeah.
diagram, you're overlooking things more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you said about your thing is operations and that kind of thing. So when you talk about that, do you sort of go into a business and then you look at the processes that they're operating and then make suggestions and
Yeah.
provide solutions and everything else?
Yeah. Um, I quite like doing an audit, even when I'm not going to do any other work for that business. But with the audit, it's like a really speedy way to learn about the business and find out what's going on in the business. So
Yeah.
An audit is looking at all the aspects of the business with the business owner, then speaking to all the team members on what they do, what's going well, what could be improved, what are their pain points. Check all the social media of the business and you have a look at the processes and see how things work
Hmm.
and come up with a plan, a report and a plan for the business owner, suggesting what the priorities would be to work on for the first 90 days. You pick one priority per month
Hmm.
because that's what you can concentrate on. You'd want to do everything, but you
Yeah.
can't. So you have to be realistic and pick what's the most urgent and what's the biggest pain point.
Hmm.
And then, yeah, and then an OBM can either just do the report, suggest what to do to their clients, and maybe have a catch-up call later if they decide to just put it in place themselves. Or I can stay and actually do it in the
Hmm.
business.
Yeah. So working on that principle then, when would a typical client recognize they have a need for somebody that offers something similar to the services that you provide people?
That's a very good question. Usually they don't.
Right.
Well, it's when you're overworked
Yeah.
and you really think that, oh, I just need to answer that email, or I just need to clear the inbox, or I just need to do this, I just need to do that. Well, you just need help.
Hmm. Yeah.
And and everybody will click a different way. So it could be, talking to another OBM, working out what they do and thinking, well, oh God, I need you in my business. Or it could be chatting to their coach or a friend, or it could be chatting to their partner and their partner actually giving them a deadline saying, well, I've had enough of you spending your Sundays checking your email. We need to
Hmm.
spend time together. So it's all very different, but they're all business owners that have a growing business,
Hmm.
but it's not structured for that growth. So they're
Yeah.
spending a lot of time, they're wasting time basically doing
Yeah.
bits that they don't actually need to do.
Yeah. I see it a lot in doing what I do when I'm working with a client a lot of the time. As their business grows, you find them running around, and usually, and when I'm starting to work with someone, they're at a point of distress,
Yeah,
and it doesn't that distress can manifest itself in several different ways. It could be stress, it could be they're missing deadlines, it could be they're not sleeping or whatever it might be,
yeah.
but they are at a point of distress at some, and you
And
go
it's
in
a
there.
catch-22 because they think, well, I need to do that so I can have time to work on the business. So they're constantly chasing
Yeah.
something, like chasing the piece, but the more they work, the more they're bringing somehow business, and it's never really stopping until they decide, stop.
Yeah.
Someone else needs to work on the business.
Yeah, and there's a lack of structure in their working day as well. It's
Yeah,
very reactive rather than being proactive or
yeah,
whatever, and it just drives them, just drives them absolutely, well, round the bend. And
it is. It
yeah, and
is.
it's hard. It's really, really hard. Um, so when when you're sort of working with a client, you say you go through the audit side of things and you sit down and you do an audit with a client, you sit down, you identify several problems and everything else. What's what's the most common thing you see with the people that you're working with? Is there a, we talk about the distress side of things, but is there a common problem? So from my perspective, for example, often it's cash flow. There's not enough money coming into the business, and we need to get more money coming into the business so we can afford to stay afloat. Do you have? Is there like a recurring problem that you see on a regular basis when you first start to work with someone?
I would say it's breaking habits,
Okay.
breaking the habit of wanting to do everything, or when I come in, they have to sort of change gear. They
Hmm.
cannot keep managing their business the way they have done it so far. They not only need to step back slowly, it doesn't happen overnight,
Hmm.
but they need to stop going from doing everything in their business to managing their business,
Yeah.
which means that they're not answering every single email. They just need to make sure they have processes and systems in place so their staff knows what to do.
Hmm.
And this is really daunting because they're not it they have the feeling they're losing the control.
Yes. Yeah.
And this is really difficult. And that's probably the thing that slows me down quite a lot when working with someone. And it's not technical, it's the business owner on phase or maniac. Some people are just control freaks and there
Yeah,
are
they are.
some
Yeah. Yeah.
and they won't let go. Then it's a bit tricky. So you need to find ways,
Yeah.
just explain it, prove it by A plus B. It's that, well, you just are going to sleep 4 hours a night for the rest of your life. You just need to, trust the people and they get to trust you and understand how you work as well. And then, it works or it doesn't work. Can't say that it's 100%, success. Some people just won't let go.
No, no, and that is a big problem when you've got an owner managed business. It's actually knowing when to let go and when what you can let go, when to let go, and then there's the how am I going to do that? Because they've always done it,
Yeah.
and I see that all the time. I see it all the time. People don't want to, and they've built this business up, they've nurtured this business. And one of the big things I talk about with people is try not to treat your business as a baby. Treat your business as a business. It's a vehicle for paying your mortgage, it's a vehicle for paying your rent, or it's a vehicle for putting food on your table or putting your kids through school or whatever it might be. But that's the purpose of your business, and treat it as a separate legal entity. Don't treat it as your own baby that you're loving and nurturing and
Hmm.
everything else. And
Yeah.
people are too emotionally invested in that. And it's
Yeah.
overcoming that emotional investment. And that's the challenge. And I've always done it this way. I hear that God all the time. I've always done it this way.
Yeah.
Yeah, but maybe there's a
Yeah.
better way. But I've always done it this way, and that it's overcoming those sort of like traditional barriers. And it sounds like you have the same challenges. So,
Yeah. It's a question of
what would you say then is what would you say is the biggest challenge you faced with a client, and how did you overcome that, and what was the outcome?
biggest challenge. Well, I think it's something that I'm trying to fight right now. It's wanting to go too fast.
Uh-huh.
Um, it's you really have when you're changing the business, especially when there's quite a lot, you really have to stick to a plan and do it in stages.
Yeah.
And if you start trying to change things right, left, forward, then you sort of end up in an upgraded version of what you had before. Things are not
Yeah.
working together. And you've spent months doing it. So you start with the foundations, you start with a thing, make sure it's solid, working, and then you build it up slowly, slowly, slowly. And I'm doing that with a client right now. I'm like, I want to go faster. But I know I'm not because if I start working on something else, I'm just going to be wasting my time. We may
Hmm.
have to do it again, or it may be completely counterproductive. So,
Hmm. It's
back.
working. So you're working at their pace, which is obviously
Yeah,
what.
and you also build up the speed.
Mm,
You really we're building a database, so we really have to make sure that's right and it's
yeah.
doing everything that we want. And then we'll build add on to that to slowly, slowly sort of expand what it does.
Hmm.
But we need to get right at the start, otherwise.
Yeah. No, no, that's fair enough. And are they accepting that you're wanting to move a bit quicker than they're going, or are they sort of holding you
It's
back?
actually it's actually the client that wants to go faster.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, the client wants to see change, but we agree that we cannot start changing our way. So we are in agreement that it's not a good idea to want to go too fast, but we both agree that change is needed. So
Yeah.
thankfully we are in agreement. But yeah, it's when you get, you sort of get you can feel that the team is stretched. And
Yeah.
it's just that they need to hang on a little bit more until we have systems that we can rest on
Hmm.
that can take up it can absorb the growth as well.
Yeah.
So it's that those few months, I would say the first 6 months when you start working as a business is quite critical because that's when you come in and you start seeing the biggest problems and sometimes you sort of have to change gear. And I don't like saying it because it sounds wrong, but you have to put reverse gear and say, well, what did you rebuild? What did you intend to build? And what do we
Yeah.
undo before we can do it again? So
But that
it's
makes
ready for the
yeah.
next stage of growth.
But that makes perfect sense as well, because in many respects, what will happen is a problem will have occurred. They'll put a sticking plaster over the top of it.
Exactly.
Then they'll move on to the next thing, another sticking plaster will go, and you've got to take all those sticking plasters off to get to a point where you can actually go from a base level that works, and you can drive forwards
But
from that.
that's going back to silos and saying, well, they've had a problem, they fixed it. They've had a
Mm,
problem, they fixed it. And they've had another problem, they fixed it. And then it comes to a point where you have to look at an overview of all your problems and say how you're going to fix it together. And so that the problems don't come, but you don't just transfer them to the next one or it's, yeah,
yeah. Yeah, that absolutely makes perfect sense. I think in my background, going back what feels now like 100 years, one of the things that we used to do is we used to copy a lot of software. We were a duplication company. We used to copy software, and what would happen is a software would get released, and then we'd do the software release for our client, and we'd send out the diskettes or whatever it was, the format that we're going on.
that was a long time ago
Oh, it
then,
was a
if
long
you're
time ago. I'm
listening.
going back to the 90s now, yeah, 80s and 90s, but we'd send out the diskettes for people and everything else. And then a few days later, you'd get a patch disc, and then you get another patch disc, and then you have patch number 4 and patch number 5 and patch number 6. And then all of a sudden, you get a new release of the version of the software because they've realized that actually that all these patches and the software isn't working on the various different platforms. And you used to see that all the time. And it's interesting to with what you talked about there, you can see the relation across the. It doesn't matter what it is you're doing in business, you have to do things in the right way, and you cannot just do a quick fix because a quick fix doesn't always work. So typically, what sort of size of businesses are you usually working with? They must be in that growth phase, and have they gone
Yeah.
through that really big sharp growth, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh crikey, what have we built here? We've built this behemoth. Is that the point they're at?
It can vary because I can work with solopreneurs that also have promising businesses and this sort of they want to make sure they don't get to the stage where they're overwhelmed or they want to put things in place from the start. So that can be an
Mm,
option, or it can be a business that has grown quite a lot and it's tried to set up put in place some businesses and some systems and it has hired people. Um and it's yeah, and it's got a small team of sort of freelancers.
mhm,
But as you said, it needed a system, so it's found a system. And that was the patch, and it needed something else. So it's put another fix on it. So that's how it grows because it's the business owner that needs help with this and that. So he's hired someone, and that's how it grows like organically.
mhm,
It comes a point where it's growing quite a lot. Someone needs to look at it and think, well, this you have a team, you have a gap in your team because you have no one doing this and that, and
mm.
you have a system that's not working, but sometimes it could just be, well, you actually have a system that can do everything, or why don't connect those two systems? Because you can do that so easily nowadays, like they can talk to each other. So it's
Yeah,
so many different sort of, but I'd say turnover around 200K is usually when you start needing an OBM.
yeah. I would say it's at that point where the business isn't now like a small business that you can manage everything in there.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a
yeah,
business that's grown. It's a small business that's grown, but it needs work on to blossom.
yeah. I've got a client that I'm working with at the moment, and they've grown very, very quickly in a very, very short space of time. And the solution up to that to get them to that point has been throw people at it. So the team has grown to they're about 18, 19 people now. Um, and it's like this. It's like a whirlwind. It really, really is. And we're trying to put structure into place within the business. And I really feel for the business owner at the minute because they're in a position where they really don't know which way is up, simply because it's just gone like this.
Yeah.
Um, and their reputation is phenomenal locally. But the problem is that whilst they're keeping their customers happy and everything's working really, really well over here, it's that typical serene swan, so nice and serene on the surface and paddling like hell underneath to try and keep things going. And
Mm,
it's very much that situation. What we're trying to do is put structure into the business and actually hierarchy into the business, because everything goes through the MD at the moment. Absolutely everything. So when you've got literally everybody reporting into you and you're trying to keep everything going, plus you're trying to do the job as well. Yeah, you blowing your cheeks out and having that reaction is very much how I've been a number of times when I've been in with this particular client. But we're getting there. We are getting there. It's progress. It is progress, and we're making that. So, having been you're working for yourself now for 5 years, it's about 5 years you've been working for yourself.
yeah,
What would you say is the biggest challenge that you faced in that time?
I would say it's me. Just um accepting that you actually need to change. You need to, can we swear on this podcast?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Well, you need to sort out your shit.
yeah,
Really. It's you are your biggest enemy, and we all have fears and we all have worries and things that when you're in business, you just have to know yourself really well. Doesn't mean that you have to sort of do everything, but knowing yourself is critical.
uh-huh.
Knowing your boundaries, knowing your limits, knowing what you're good at and what you're not good at.
Yeah,
And there's a personal development part that you have to do. It's, and I am convinced that sooner or later, if you want to live a life that is aligned, you have to do it.
yeah,
Because that's what you're good at. You want to work on that field. And that's one day I woke up, it's like I have to stop being the little hamster in the wheel. Like,
hmm,
and as I had my human design done, and I spoke to the ladies, like, I don't mean to be lazy, but I just want to know what's easy for me and not for the others, and I'll
yeah,
just do that.
yeah.
And that was it, because it's just, it makes more sense. You do have to work smartly when you're working for yourself. So we all bring something
Yeah.
that we think absolutely, it's us, or we don't even realize sometimes the gift
Mhm.
that we have, but it's just being aware of that. And yeah, having it quite clear makes it so much easier to
What
be
was the
freelance.
realization for you that where when did that realization happen that you realized that you were the hamster in the wheel?
It was after Christmas 2024. Um, I had a really bad month. My mum moved to care home that
Uh-huh.
Christmas. So we spent the Christmas without my mum at her place.
Yeah.
And we had to, not only did we have to move her, we had to prepare her flat that we'd lived in for 30 years and empty it. We hadn't seen, I didn't remember the flat being empty. We had
Yeah.
to empty it in the middle of winter, and my mum was a hoarder. So
All right. Okay. Yeah. There's a lot of
so
stuff.
I say emptying the flat as if we spent 2 years emptying the flat beforehand.
Wow.
Yeah, 120 pairs of shoes. Trust me. Yeah, and that's just the shoes. So
So you
we
Melba
had to empty
Marcos.
that flat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then the furniture that remained, we had to, just empty a flat. And that was a very heavy Christmas, and I had a heavy month with my clients as well, and not necessarily not very understanding, and maybe I didn't feel I could open up to them to tell them what was going on, which obviously is not any Christmas. So I came back home in January 25. No, that would have been December 23, sorry, and that was
Yeah. Yeah.
January 24. I
Yeah.
came back here and I was extremely tired. So I thought I'm gonna take a week, not off, but taking it easy. Then it was 2 weeks. Then it was 6 months.
Right.
And
Okay.
I just felt completely out of steam. And it was basically a sign of burnout.
Yes.
Um, but thankfully I was very aware of that. So I sort of prepared my business and I chose the clients I wanted to work with. And that's when I started to work on myself, on my personal development, and trying to find where my energy was best spent,
Hmm.
basically. Because I'm also a single mom, so energy is quite rare.
Yeah.
So you have to use it wisely. And that's where it all started. And I'm still working on it and doing all those, search. I went on to do different things, and you always find different things about
Mm.
yourself, which is very interesting.
What did you find as you were coming out of the burnout and you'd sort of done that self-reflection and you sat there? What was the what was the catalyst for you for getting yourself back? I'm going to use the word well again because I've experienced burnout personally, and I was unwell with it. I was very unwell with it. But what was that? What was the thing that helped you really get yourself back on track?
So I did one of the first thing I did was my human design, and it really helped me to understand how I worked.
Uh-huh.
It turns out I'm a projector,
Uh-huh.
and projector don't have energy centers, so they don't hold energy, they absorb the energy of the others. Which thankfully I have two very, very energetic children, so that's
Yeah.
good. But it also means that if you're around toxic persons, it really affects you a
Right.
lot.
Okay.
So that it was really good. It was really good to learn that because I don't waste time anymore. If I feel negative energy, I cut
Hmm.
it out. I don't really wait. And I've done
Mm.
that with my clients as well. Now, trust your gut feeling.
Yeah.
It's not going to get better. If you don't feel a client, don't work with, because this is going to, there's no zero in your energy. It's either good energy or bad energy. And if it's not good energy, well, it's bad energy.
Yeah.
And then don't work with him. That's it.
Yeah.
So, and this burnout, you're just tired. I mean, it's not just physical tiredness. It's intellectual, it's mental, it's everything. So learning how to manage your energy and where it's coming from and how it's going, depleting, is really important. And
Yeah.
then the projector is also someone that is working. The way it was explained to me was the analogy of the film crew.
Uh-huh.
You have the actors, you've got the director, you've got the screenplay, and the film critic. So the actors are the manifesting generators, the one the flow of beans going on all the time. Then you've got the director, who's the person that's guiding, and that's the projectors. That's me. And then you've got the film critic, who is an even less common type. I can't remember what it starts with an R, but it's quite rare. And they're really the sort of critic and having a critical eye on the word and always reflecting. Are they reflectors? I think they're reflectors. So
Hmm.
this is, and it was quite interesting for me to learn that about the sort of director angle because I didn't, it was new to me. I hadn't
Mm.
thought about it. I was trying to function as another type, which was just not working. So
Yeah.
that was really a revelation. Not just it's the way you function, you way you think.
Yeah.
So
There's no you can't control that. It's who you are as a person. And actually
exactly.
how you operate in if you operate in a particular way and you know what your strengths are and you know what you know they're not, it's really fascinating to hear you talk about that side of it because actually I totally get where you're coming from. I know where my strengths are and I know where my weaknesses are, and I'm not a detail orientated person in any way shape or form. I'm very much that'll do, right? I worked with my brother for 17 years, um, and no, 23 years actually. I worked with my brother, but we worked together for a long period of time. Personality wise, he's very, very detail orientated. Um, I'm not at all in that way, shape, or form. We used to rub along well together because we were very opposite in the way that we
Mm.
thought and everything
Yeah.
else. But even now with detail stuff, I tend to lose interest with detail. I'm very much big picture thinker, and
Yeah.
that's kind of, and I'm very much a problem solver. I look at the big picture and I look at the problems and I look at the outcomes from those problems and I can see where they're at. When it comes to detail, I can't be bothered with it. If I tell you I've got over 25,000 messages in my inbox, right, that will tell you how much I really don't give a monkey's about detail and
Mm.
that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Just doesn't interest me. And when I say that to friends, sometimes they go, "What the fuck? 25,000 messages in your inbox?" Yeah, absolutely. That's the way I am. But there you go. Um, but the other thing that you were talking about there, which I found really sort of fascinating, was the it was that realization, and then actually that change, and how you made that change. Because I know with myself, when something happens, it's I have to be aware of my own self,
Yeah,
and not take it all on board myself. And the other thing that you talked about as well is clients. Now, particularly when we do what we do, we work closely with our clients, we build relationships with our clients. And I have also worked very hard to not have negative energy with my clients. Now, there's a difference between having a client that's going through a tough time and they're experiencing negative energy in that respect, to a client that's just negative, period.
yeah.
And those are the people that I do not work with. I
Mm,
help people and support people through the difficult times to build them into a place. But if somebody is just this perpetual source of doom and gloom, I can't work with those individuals. And I do something with people, and I've worked with people in the past, and about sort of getting rid of clients to grow your business.
yeah,
Because
absolutely.
actually that negativity can really just pull you down and draw you down, and
Yeah.
can make you feel so bad. What would you say? So that was the challenge that you faced, which, and thank you for sharing that. Because I'm sure there's a lot of people that will watch this and go, yeah, I know, I've experienced that, and I recognize that, and I know that myself. What would you say is your biggest success? What was the moment that you sat there and thought, this is absolutely the right thing that I'm doing, and it gave you the biggest buzz?
So I wouldn't say about the biggest boss, um, but I think one thing that was really difficult was to fire my first client.
Yeah,
And they hadn't paid me. So I waited till I got paid, you know, sort of
yeah,
thing. And then when I got paid, I said, by the way, we're not working together. And it's at the same time, it's the client that made me realize that I wanted to bring in much more to my clients because they wanted a bilingual assistant, but I really wanted to set up systems for them. They were um, working together. They had a really big project, but they didn't even have a Google Drive in common, and it was a regulated profession as well, so it couldn't be a through Google Drive. It had to be something else because they had to have the information stored in certain countries. So they, I sort of freed myself from them, and I also realized that they didn't see the value in me. So that's
mhm,
what I freed myself of them, and not only did I get rid of them, but I also realized that, I was making a stand for myself, saying I want to offer more, and they're
mhm,
not seeing the value in what I can bring. So what's the
mhm.
point? This
It's
just,
liberating, isn't it?
yeah, I mean, I didn't, I was, it felt like another me. I was so scared that they wouldn't pay their invoice and so
Uh-huh.
scared of asking them. And it's only well, it is 2 years, but it feels like another person.
Yeah.
Completely different, but yeah, that's what triggered the whole, research on well, there's a better way to do this. It's a bit like what I see when I'm working a business. Like, there's a better way to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I say, it's liberating. It's that feeling of, actually, no, I'm worth more than that,
Yeah,
and recognizing that fact that you are worth more than that. And actually, if you're not going to treat me how I need to be treated, then there's the door. Don't let it hit you on the way out.
and I think that there was another thing with this client is that we were clearly not aligned on their goals.
Yeah.
So it was the right thing to let them go. Their vision of my roles within the company was not the vision of my role, and the conversations about that were not, they were either avoided and they turned out to be conversations about something else. So after a while, it was like I had tried to talk to them and explain to them what I could see, my vision for their business, which is Christ, it's their business.
Mm.
And I have vision for their business. Like, what more do you want? And then I never actually got to talk to them because they had something else to talk about and more important. So I was like, well, thanks.
Yeah. So you don't value me. So if you don't
Exactly.
value me,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm going to leave. Um, I use that word value. I'm really particular about values and what's important for people. I can't work with people who don't share my values. And I think a lot of that comes down to, it's almost like a respect thing. You know,
Yeah.
if I don't respect you and your business, how can I help you? And to do that, we have to have common values and on those sorts of things. And my values aren't particularly difficult. It's be authentic to who you are, be truthful, um, really believe in what you do, and don't be a dick. You know, that's kind of, they're kind of my four core values really. And if people are treating people badly, that to me is a big no-no.
Mm.
I cannot abide that.
Yeah.
I don't like, you know, if you have to have I believe you have to be the right sort of person. You behave in the right way, in the right manner, and treat people with respect. If you don't, I can't work with you. And I think that's, when you say values, they didn't have your values, and if they don't have your values and that side of things, it's not worth it.
No, and you'll find quite a lot actually. And it's I think it's practice
Uh-huh.
on working, you as you see more clients, you just get more and more clear on what you don't want. It's always
Yeah.
a good start. I'm a woman, I'm always wondering what I want, but at least I know what I don't want. I always think it's better than nothing. But
Yeah.
it's a way to, sort through potential clients and thinking, do I want to work for him or not? Then you get your gut feeling. It's like,
Yeah.
think how the client is behaving. I had this morning about, it's not a client, it's someone that's, it's a networking event that I wanted to join, and the lady was not in the call at 8:30. I wanted to find out about it, and no one in the call. So I sent an email, no one, no answer, nothing, nobody's there. 9:30, I get a message saying, "Oh, we understand, life happens, and you may have missed. We missed each other, and life happens, so we can understand and this and that." And I'm like, I was there.
Yeah.
What do you mean life happens and we missed each other? You just didn't come. You didn't bother
Yeah.
coming
Yeah.
in our call. It's like, don't. And I actually asked GPT to rephrase my email back because I thought this is a bit too strong. But I was just like, the fact that I was on the call at 8:30, I had to reorganize my whole morning, and by 8:45, nobody was there. But
Yeah.
that's a sign.
Yeah.
It's a lack of respect
Yeah.
to not
Absolutely.
come on the call and then send me an email making it sound like it's my
Yeah. It was
fault.
your
I missed
fault.
the call.
Yeah.
It's like, I
Absolutely.
didn't miss the call.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's like ding, alarm bell.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you see that, you just think, oh, fine. You're not somebody who's going to grace my area. I'm not going to. I love the fact that you've now got to that point in life where you're not entertaining those people. If they're a negative person or negative energy, or they're full of bullshit or whatever it might be, you're not going to entertain them. I think that's a really, really empowering thing. So that burnout that you had was really revelationary for your personal growth, which is fantastic.
Yeah, which I think, well, I think for quite a lot of people, it is just a revelation that the way you're functioning is just not right.
Yeah.
And you need to change something. And that is, if there's something to be out of burnout, there is one
Yeah.
that you're just burning out for a reason.
I talk about mental health quite a lot, and I'm very open about the fact that I had a mental breakdown in 2012, and I was diagnosed with severe clinical depression. And if anybody's watching a number of these podcasts, they might have seen me mention it before. But I look back on that time; it was a particularly stressful time with work, which was pretty much the root cause of that issue. It was certainly the catalyst behind the issues that I had mentally. And I look back on it and I think to myself, actually, now it was probably the best learning experience I had. What I learned in that time about business and about myself and everything else was phenomenal. But at the time, it was genuinely horrendous that I went through. But actually, now I'm in so much a better place because of that. I'm better at what I do professionally because of that. I'm better as a person personally because of all of that sort of thing. So you look back on it and you think, yeah, it was rubbish at the time, but actually, in hindsight, it was probably a good thing.
Mm-mm.
Um, so what's next for you? Where are you looking to take your business? What are you looking to? How are you? What does the next 12 months look like for you, or 5 years, or whatever? Have you got a vision?
Um, no, I can't say I have a vision because I, fell into it by accident, so that would be a bit.
An accidental entrepreneur.
I do want to work on getting more OBM clients because variety brings experience, and that's really enriching. And I get quite involved in the business of my clients, so I do want to get an extra interesting business to work on.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of things. There's always things to do. It could be, more training. There's AI coming in, so that's going to be fun next year. Work out what to do with it, and maybe what else do I have? Some systems to implement for my own business.
Hmm.
Finally get a website.
Really? I think it took me about 4 or 5 years to get my first website.
Well, I'm getting there
You're
then.
about you're about on par. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that's, yeah, it's quite a lot of things to do, and I'm sort of, yeah, probably getting out of the rough patch of working out what you want to do and stabilizing and then expanding a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, and actually, the one thing I think, the one thing I've taken from being self-employed as well is, so I never really wanted to employ anybody, and people turn around to you and say, "Ah, yeah, but if you don't want to employ people, then you're not got a business, you just got a job that you're working for yourself, whatever." I don't subscribe to that viewpoint, but I never really wanted to have staff working. I had staff. I had 25 staff at one point working for me, and to be perfectly honest with you, it was an absolute nightmare. I spent more time dealing with staff issues than I did dealing with doing what I was doing for my job. But one of the things I think it has taught my kids, who are now adults, and one of them has his own business, but it's taught them that you can work for yourself, you can be
Mhm.
successful, and you can be self-motivated and to do those things. And I think that's one of the things that I've probably taken most out of being self-employed. And my wife is self-employed as well. She works
Yeah.
for herself. She's got her own business. She's got three, actually, because why have one business when you can have three? Anyway, that's her ADHD coming out, but there you go. That's a whole different story. And I think that's something that's really important. And you must get a lot from that, with being, like you mentioned, you're a single mum and you've got two beautiful children. You must sit there and think, absolutely, it's great being able
Yeah,
to show that to them.
yes. Well, that's it wasn't planned, but it's the idea. Is also, I'm an example to them, and there's no reason why they couldn't do it, or yeah, why not set up
Yeah,
their own business? But it's just they can do what they like.
yeah.
There's not just the one path. So
As
they're
as my dad always used to say to me, the world is your oyster, and
exactly.
you can do with it what you want to do. Um, I've got to say, I've really enjoyed our chat. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. It's been brilliant, Aurelie.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you'd like to add before we sort of sign off, or is there anything? Is there anything you're working on that you're excited to say about in the world coming? I think you with whatever you're doing. Is there anything you'd like to talk about or mention?
Nothing that is advanced enough to,
Yeah.
then I'll put myself under a lot of pressure.
Fair enough. No, that's fantastic. Well, thank you very much for your time this
Thank you
afternoon.
for
I
having
really
me.
do appreciate it. And have yourself an amazing Christmas. If for
Thank
those
you.
people watching
You
this, we're
too.
recording this about 9 days before Christmas. So have a lovely Christmas to your family. And
Thank you.
no doubt I'll catch you on a Zoom call very soon at some point.
Yes, I'm sure we'll meet.
Fantastic. Take care. See you
Bye.
later.